So, what sort of stories can the organisation chart tell? Well, um, I suppose the great value is that it's always up to date, and so people come to trust it, and they know that they can go to it in any situation, and in particular, if there's a crisis or an emergency. So, let's suppose, for example, that you're at work and one day, and one of your colleagues nearby, Angelo, um, suddenly says, "Oh, I've got such a bad pain in my chest. I think it's my heart. I'm so worried. Who can help?" All right. So who can help? So you're right there. So what can you do? Well, um, by good fortune, this organisation is already prepared for such an emergency, and this chart actually shows people who have a CPR certification. So everybody who has been trained in cardiopulmonary resuscitation, those people have this little red icon in their box, and that's the legend up here. So everybody who's CPR certified, they're there in the chart immediately. So if we just simply hover over a person who has this icon, we can see all the people who have this certification. So let's suppose, for example, that you're in the corporate office, and furthermore, let's suppose that you're on level 3, so therefore corporate 3. So we simply hover over here, the little window comes up with all the people, we click on building, and that sorts the people into building order. We find the people who are in corporate office level 3, and here they are. So we'll immediately click on Bradley Hick, and the system will immediately take us to Bradley. So, so these are the people on level 3. So if this is your normal location, you will almost certainly know Bradley. So you'll either be able to call out or beckon or something, and Bradley can come over immediately. So Bradley comes over, and he has a look at Angelo, who's not feeling very well. Maybe takes his pulse, but Angelo is now feeling reassured because somebody's there who is a specialist in this area, I suppose. So Angelo's pain sort of gradually diminishes, and Angelo goes straight away to get a checkup. So that's just one story that the org charts can tell. And so even if it's a potentially serious story or a bad story, it can have a happy ending. Um, and in particular, it can, because in this case, the organisation is prepared for these sorts of eventualities. So that's just one, but you can have, you can identify people with other sorts of qualifications. It might be a fire warden, or it might be, well, anything that's important in your organisation. So let's consider another situation. Let's just go back and have a look at our slides for a quick minute. All right. So typically in an organisation, there's a crisis and emergency management team. So this team focuses on 5 key things relative to the organisation, and that are the organisation's people, the environment that it operates in, the assets that it has, its reputation, and its liability. And these 5 things are often known by the acronym PEARL. The crucial thing is that the organisation needs to be prepared and have this information available beforehand, and have considered who the most appropriate people are to deal with any situation that involves any or all of these 5 components of the organisation. So the crisis team typically focus on people, the environment and the assets, and the emergency response team they usually focus on reputation and liability. And you can see here that there's specialist executive managers who are nominated to be part of this crisis and emergency management team. But it's all for the purpose of ensuring that the organisation is prepared and protected in case of a crisis or an emergency. So let's just move on, and let's just think of another story that the organisation chart can be used to tell. So I'm just drilling up to the top of the organisation. Now, let's consider a scenario like this. Yeah, we don't really like to think of crises or emergencies, but they can happen, all right? Let's take earthquakes. You know, I hope it doesn't happen, but we know that earthquakes are a fact of life and they can happen. So let's suppose, for example, that there's your organisation has a number of plants scattered throughout the provinces, and so in this particular province, there's an earthquake where one of your plants is. All right, so let's just consider the organisation as it might be. Where are we? All right. So this might be a typical organisation. So let's suppose the plant is out in the province, and this time let's suppose Angelo works in the plant, and let's suppose Angelo is maybe right down here on the bottom left-hand corner, many levels down in the organisation. He works in the plant. His office and his desk is actually on the ground floor near a window, and he can look out and he can see what's happening. All right, so the earthquake happens, and as Angelo looks out, he immediately sees two big pipes breaking and rupturing. And one of those pipes carries gas, and the other one carries chemicals from one part of the plant to the other. And in addition, there's a fence and a power line, and the earthquake has brought the power lines down. The power lines are on the fence, and there's sparks coming off the fence. And so all in an instant, there's the potential for a massive catastrophe, because who knows whether the sparks might ignite the gas and what will happen to the chemicals. And Angelo can see the chemicals running down, and there's a river just not far away. So the chemicals will very quickly find their way into the river and damage the environment. So, crisis, emergency, what to do? All right. Well, again, fortunately, this organisation is prepared and protected because they've identified the crisis and emergency management team. And if we simply click on this group, which we've called the disaster response team, we can see immediately all the people who are in that team. And these people are people who are denoted by having this little lightning bolt in their lightning bolt icon in their box on the org chart. So immediately, Angelo can click on the button, identify this group, and contact contact Frank or Raymond or any of these people and let them know and explain to them exactly what he's seen. All right, so the crisis and emergency management team, they would all know who else are on the team. And so what happens when a team is in operation and a good team is working or playing together? They operate well and they communicate well together, and everybody knows what all the other players' role is, and they all know immediately what to do. And everybody here knows who looks after the people, who looks after the environment, who looks after the assets, and so forth. And so immediately, within minutes, the two ruptured pipes the valves can be shut off so that the gas and the chemicals are no longer escaping. Whoever looks after the electricity can flick the switch, and turn all that off, so there's no more danger of a fire being ignited. And so fortunately, disaster has been averted, and all because of the organisation being prepared, but also the organisation having at its disposal this excellent tool, the organisation chart, that tells a story of who needs to do what. So just a scenario, folks, but and hopefully, these sort of things don't happen, but it doesn't take much preparation, much work to be prepared, because a few moments ago we looked at the components of or the parties involved in the crisis and emergency management team, and the facets of the organisation that need to be addressed. And simply by looking at this chart, we can see, have we got everybody covered? Have we got the assets covered? Well, yes, here's James, he takes care of fixed assets. Have we got the people covered? Well, here's Frank, he's Vice President of HR, and there's a few people there. And so it's very quickly to see and ensure that we do have a team, we do have all our positions covered or all our bases covered. And if we don't, well, we can identify who we need so that we've got a full team and a strong team. So look, just a couple of stories that the organisation charts can tell. There's many more stories.